Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome to the show today. We are joined once again by Mike Zinn, our very experienced life coach, who's back with us live today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Jill. Doing great. Looking forward to a good show.
Absolutely. So for those that may not know you yet, give us a brief introduction to what you do exactly.
Absolutely. I'm a life coach based in Southern California, and I work in a pretty large flat platform of services, individual life coaching, group sessions, leadership training, work with companies on various sales and leadership initiatives. My wife and I, work with engaged couples prior to the time that they get married, have a course on that. So a pretty wide range of services to help people.
Great. And it's lifecoachingbymikezinn.com, and that's ZINN.com.
Correct.
Now, I know you work a lot with relationships, couples, but I also know you have an area of focus for today's show. Where did you want to start?
Good. Yes. I wanted to talk about what I call the value of teams. And, you know, we know historically about teams. They probably started from the caveman and cavewoman with teams as they went out and foraged and hunted for food. And then teams, advanced as we got more sophisticated, always continued with families and groups, but it might be organizations, businesses. But I really read an interesting article lately, and it was written by, and I want to make sure I get the name correct to give the proper due, a lady by the name of Brittany McDonald, who works for the Wild Spirit Wolf Sanctuary. And so it's an interesting parallel, I guess, between what she is seeing that wolf packs do and what groups of humans can do in their various jobs and just daily living. And so, at the core of all great teams is this group working together. So think of a wolf pack. They have to go out and work in concert every day or they don't eat, right? So they're trying to take care of their pack, they're getting food and so on and so forth. But human teams are very much the same. Human teams have to figure out the characteristics and the makeup of a team, whether it's your news group or my family or businesses that I may work with. And there's some really interesting kind of characteristics that flow between both groups. So, everybody needs to establish roles and responsibilities for the group, for each team leader. They need to identify a leader. They need to create clear goals and objectives and are results driven. They need to create an atmosphere of accountability and dependability that goes along with teamwork. They need to kind of exhibit all of this with a lack of ego, putting the team first, a unified commitment to the stated goal, create a positive atmosphere, great communication, having everyone in the team play a part, supportive of each other, so on and so forth. So it was just kind of an interesting parallel of things we already knew, but sometimes, I guess because maybe ego gets in the way or people's agendas get in the way, teams don't function that well.
Interesting. So how do we stick with it?
Well, I think the main thing is, like I say, when you establish clear goals and objectives, and again, that starts with a relationship. It starts with a family. It goes on to business, service groups, whatever it is. The principles still stay the same, but just establishing kind of guidelines up front of how you're going to accomplish your business and accomplish your goal is the most important thing.
Wow, wonderful. That's amazing. And that's awesome. That's good for me to hear and our listeners to hear and viewers as well. Now, what other aspects of relationships? Can I just ask you the most common core problem? I mean, you can work with someone, right, and go over, like, you establish the rules, you establish the roles, you all, but that communication, that word communication comes up so often, right? And you
Yes.
always hear lack of communication. What does that mean exactly? And how can we fix that? Nobody wants a lack of communication. We all want to be heard, understood, and vice versa. But where is this gap coming from? How can we narrow down this gap? Because not everyone's
A-
going to agree all the time, but explain that.
Absolutely.
You're the expert.
No, great question. It's probably communication is the most important term, but it's also the most overused term.
Yes.
And I think it starts with listening. And you and I on a previous program, I believe, talked about kind of that art of listening. And you've got this group that's sitting around, and there's the whatever you want to call them, leader, chairman, whatever, chairwoman, and that person is communicating to the group. But is the whole group listening? Are they nodding their heads? Are they zoning out? Are they looking at their phone under the table? Are they really connected? So whether it's a couple, a family, a larger organization, people have to listen for communication to even exist.
Okay.
And once they're listening, then that sparks some dialogue. And good dialogue can be not confrontational, but it doesn't always have to agree. But at the end, if you've listened and you are kind of buying in for the betterment of the group, then you can move forward. Without that, groups cannot move forward. They cannot accomplish, they've wasted that hour meeting, or a couple have wasted time together trying to communicate, work through a problem. But it comes from actively listening. And, people within the group, if they have a counter thought, they need to be able to feel comfortable speaking and presenting that, and the leader needs to listen. So it's that, always communication, that two-way street.
Got it. Well, thank you for clarifying that, Mike. And also just want to point out again your website. And what other forms of contact do you have?
Website, you can email through the website, so that's an easy one. Phone number out here in California, 714-606-5728. And we have a policy of attending to details, and a detail is we get back to you right away to either discuss our program or get you set up on a program. And we do, Jill, I think we've talked about this as well. We offer a 45-minute free consultation to anybody who might be interested. And we do that because picking a life coach is really important. And there needs to be, people need to not take that lightly. And the only way that you can do it is see if there's a match. And the only way you can see if there's a match is to have a little discussion. And so we kind of run through a format for our 45-minute consultation, and then see if there's a program we can put together with the client.
Now, how long have you been doing this for, you and your wife?
Well, she's only involved with the engaged couples part of it. Yeah, she's always there as a sounding board. I think I maybe mentioned that I kind of feel like I've been doing this my whole life.
Yeah.
On the playground, in the neighborhood, forming teams. And then I got into actual school teaching and coaching, and did that for a number of years, entered the business world. And when you get into a business world, you still have teams and you still have people that you work with. So you're still always coaching. And some of those same people that I've been coached or brought into companies that I was working with, I still mentor, which is another aspect of this. Formally, I've been doing the life coaching for about a year. But kind of, like I say, feel like I've been doing it for a lot longer. And so that's been a really a strong blessing and something I really enjoy.
Perfect. Wonderful. Again, life coaching by Mike Zinn, ZINN.com. What else would you like to add for our listeners today?
Well, another thing that I think is really an interesting aspect, and one that people have been doing a lot of studying on. We get this impression that we go to grammar school, high school, college, and are learning at that point, when we get that first job, so to speak, our learning stops. And so there's been a lot of articles written, podcasts, discussions about consciously and deliberately learning all your life. And an example was brought up in, I think it was Inc. magazine a few months ago, about Warren Buffett. I think he's 80 now. He's a self-made billionaire. Everybody kind of knows him as the Oracle of Omaha. And he does something that's really, I think, interesting and maybe not totally possible for you and I and the rest of the world. He devotes about 80% of his time to what he calls reading and learning so that he can make correct decisions on the companies he invests in. I don't have 80% of my time to do that. Most people don't. But if we kind of look at our time bandits, in any week, we all have some time to do that. We all have time to look kind of beyond what our day-to-day lives are and study and, how can we make ourselves better? And it's something that I continue to try to adapt. I don't think I've by any means learned all that I can learn, and read all the time about things that can help me and help my family and help my clients.
Great.
So that whole kind of deliberate learning, mindset. And then that goes into, something that I call second line thinking. I mean, it's if you're looking at something and you say, okay, I see that, and I'm going to invest in yogurt shops. Well, there's that trend has come and gone, but what's down around the bend? And I don't know that unless I do some deliberate learning and deliberate strategic thinking. So I think it's good for everybody, no matter what line of work they're in, what their profession is, what their goals are.
And how do you get the right mindset to stick with something? You have a goal, you have a vision, you think about it, you want it, but not everybody is, they can think about it every day, but they're not taking any steps to go towards that. And that's why they end up on that treadmill. So maybe
Absolutely.
you as an expert would be able to tell us some ways that we could, stay off the treadmill, jump off a little bit and walk somewhere real.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Jill, I talk to so many people who say, I've got all these ideas and I want to do this, and I can't get out of my own way. I'm on the treadmill, and it is hard. So I've kind of just developed, it's not rocket science, but just developed a kind of a 4-step process that I call the system. And it starts with journaling. And you and I have talked a little bit about that. Getting your ideas down on paper every day, not making it something that is a burden, like, oh my gosh, I got to dinner and I haven't journaled yet, but just start it in the morning, spend, 15 minutes on it, let the ideas kind of free flow. Always make sure that you're being grateful and writing down what you're grateful for, but start to put down, it's kind of a sketch pad for some of the ideas that you might have. The second thing is visualization. How do I visualize myself in that new role, that new job, that new relationship, whatever it might be? Next thing is putting down kind of an action plan of the goals that you want, and your goal setting, and then you're doing an action plan. And if you always will go back and refer to those, that's your roadmap. It isn't meant to happen. There's no magic wand. It doesn't happen overnight. Look at things in bite-sized pieces and be, celebrate those, that you put down an action step or 2 or 3 for this week or this day. You accomplish those. It puts you that much farther ahead.
So are we physically writing these things down? Is it good to write them down or put them in your phone, make a note, but somewhere you could see it, like a vision board type of thing? Or
Absolutely. All of those. Some people, when they journal, I like to use a small notebook, and that way I can date it and I can continue to go back to it. Some people are a little bit more digitally, inclined, and they might want to keep it on a laptop or something that they can refer to that way. Vision boards are great because it's something you can look at and see every day. It might be on your wall. It might be something small that you have over your desk, whatever it might be. But if you don't put something down and put it on paper, a goal, and then put an action plan down on paper, you're just kind of swimming, you're getting distracted, and there's a certain power in routine.
Yes.
And if you continue that routine every day, some people will say to me that are my clients, oh my gosh, that stifles my creativity. And I said, I understand that. So let's not stifle it too much, but let's write down some stuff. Good. So that you can just stay on track. Just stay on track.
Good. And how can our listeners reach out to you once again? Remind everyone, please.
Website, lifecoachingbymikezinn.com, direct email through the website, or phone 714-606-5728.
Great.
Hey everybody, my name is Ralph Graves Jr. I'm the host of the Ralph Graves Jr. Show, and I want to invite you to pick up my book, Unstoppable. I wrote a book called Unstoppable. It's 7 universal laws that will transform how you pursue and achieve success. The one thing that my 20 years of law enforcement has taught me is that no matter who you are, we are all governed by universal laws, like gravity. But in this book, we're going to talk about laws like the law of forgiveness, laws like the law of control, the law of intelligent practice, the law of expectancy. I was able to see how those, no matter what their background was, those who identified and treated these laws with respect, they were able to go on and lead successful lives. So pick up this book, and you can go ahead and pick it up at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, RalphGravesJr.com, where anywhere where fine books are sold. Thank you.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back. A very quick break there because I know we had some technical difficulty getting you on. So it's a quick one for you, Mike Zinn, life coach extraordinaire here. We're talking to, and you work with people all over the world and country at this point, right? And especially
Correct.
with the pandemic, everything is virtual, right?
That is right.
And do you have an area of, you have a lot of different areas of focus for people out there listening, may say, well, what do I need a life coach for? Hey, I'm thinking about a new career. Hey, so what are some of the things, think about your clients that you really can guide someone through that can be listening, that may be able to empathize with what we're talking about and saying, hey, this guy can help me with this.
It's interesting. It's been pretty consistent since probably the 1st of February. The requests that have come in have been career, relationships, but I would say career has been number one, and I've got my own theory, and that is, I think 2020 people were just trying to get through it. How do I get through it? How do I figure out how to maybe work remotely? How do I figure out how to recoup income that was lost, keep my family focused in the right directions? And so as they get into, and so a lot of times the goals were put on hold. They had some ideas of things that they might want to do, might want to pursue, but it was like, I can't think of those now, right? So they got into 2021. They're seeing a little light at the end of the tunnel. And I'm not saying that they're being selfish, but they're starting to look inward a little bit to now I want to get back on track with some of the things that I want to do. And so that's been probably number one. And again, some with relationships, but career development, developing positive habits. Some people, them maybe increasing their fitness, even though gyms were closed, that got kind of in control during 2020 because they had more time. That was a great thing. So I think it's probably right now kind of a boon a little bit in career, or what I would not even call immediate career changes, but how do I pursue my real passion?
Yeah.
Maybe it's not time to change my career yet. I always tell them, don't quit your day job until you're really ready to make that step.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of getting people in position that maybe it's a year from now that they'll be ready to confidently take that step.
All right, good to know. Can I ask Do you have a life coach? Have you ever worked with someone specifically as well?
Not with a what I would call a life coach, because I think it's more of a it's a newer terminology.
Mhm.
But I've got my own mentors for sure,
Got
and
it.
my own unofficial board of directors that I'm constantly bouncing things
Or
off of.
yeah.
One of which is my wife. She's my great sounding board. But I've got people that I respect that have hired me and I've worked in companies with, and sometimes they, I'll tell them about a thought I have, and I think it's a great thing, and they think it's crazy, and they kind of, or they'll talk me off the ledge on something. But yeah, I think we all need some sort of coaching.
Got it.
Flip on the TV over the weekend and watch the professional golfers making millions of dollars. I'll tell you, they've got coaches.
And they're very consistent. And one of your blog posts you talked about a few months ago, being consistently consistent, how important that is, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that goes back a little bit to your routine, and it also goes back to what I would call your personal brand. When you do things consistently, positive things consistently, people can recognize that's part of that person's brand. That's part of their DNA. I always know that they're going to react in a certain manner.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, positive manner.
Got it. Well, I'm reading your article. Never go to any event, meeting, or a simple walk in the park without something to write on and something to write with. That's kind of what we talked about before, the importance of taking notes. You got to have something to
Absolutely.
look back on, because you say the ideas are just everywhere. You never know when you're going to see something that you say you're going to remember and then you don't. It's good to always jot things down. I love it. ABTN, you call it. Always be taking notes. Yes.
Yes. And I stole that from the movie Glengarry, Glen Ross. If you've ever seen that, you got to watch it, Jill. It's a cult movie about sales.
I got to write it down if I remember.
Has a great cast to it, and it was Baldwin, blanking out on his name.
Alec Baldwin.
Alec Baldwin, and he was this tyrannical sales manager who would say, "You have got to be always be closing ABC," And so I took a little poetic license with that on mine.
I love it. And Mike, what else would you like our listeners to know about you and your services and how you work and how you could be of service, of course?
I think the one thing that I'd like to people to leave people with would be we have a broad range of services, and those all kind of come from my personal experience. People will say, well, you can't be an expert in everything, and no, you can't. But my one expertise is my experience and the things that I've been, if I'm dealing with somebody who's an entrepreneur, I can tell them I've been there and I've failed and had some successes. And so I know some of the roads that they can go down and get themselves in trouble if they're not careful. Teams with businesses, I've done quite a bit of that too. So I tell them I've been down there, and I can at least show you some of the pitfalls and get you prepared for some of the challenges that you're going to have.
Got it. And normally you work with a client once a week, twice a week. How does that all work?
Depends on people's schedules. Many times I like to do once a week because it gives them some time and me some time to kind of reflect back before we go into the next session.
Okay.
Sometimes people they're really excited, particularly when they're trying to go into a new adventure and they want to do it a little bit more often, maybe twice a week. But it depends purely on the client and their schedule and what they want to accomplish and in what time period.
Got it. And what makes you happy?
Oh my gosh, I think it's helping people. This has become kind of an interesting passion for me, where for a while I probably was like a lot of people. I was interested in maybe making money, advancing a career through corporate America. But when I took a little bit of a step back, I really have an interest in kind of helping people and using some of the experience that I had, both positive and negative, and helping them to maybe not fall into those same traps that I might have.
Great. And in closing today, I just want to remind everyone, life coaching by MikeZinn.com, ZINN.com, and you do offer a 45-minute free consultation. That's
Absolutely.
That's great to see if you're a good fit, they're a good fit, and see if you can, complement and work with each other. And I think that says a lot about you right then and there. Some people charge for consultations, but I know time is valuable. But wouldn't you rather make sure it's right for everyone involved?
Absolutely. That way, both want to walk away, but we gave it a shot. That's okay too.
And do you and your wife have any of the couples classes coming up again that you want to quickly promote?
We do not have official ones yet. Still, things are a little tight out here in California, church-wise and all of that. But we're hoping maybe by the beginning of summer that will go back in full swing.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Mike.
Thank you, Joe.
Can we contact you?
I'm sorry.
How else? Phone number?
Yes, phone number. Yes, through website or phone number 714-606-5728 here in Southern California.
Excuse me. All right. Thank you so much for your time. Life coaching by MikeZinn.com. And we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Joe. Take care.
Have a great day. And everyone else, stay tuned. More of the show is on the way.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.